Attention bowlers. We are going to get started. Welcome back to Leda Lanes in Nashua, New Hampshire. This is a double-header ACST Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour match, Class C and Class E. Rob Melanson at Derek Bankus and Bryan Hebert at Paul Kravitz. I'm Steve Kelly on the call for the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour and 3-ball spare conglomerate. The match format is 5 strings with 14 points on offer, 2 points per string. 4 for total pinfall, with ties splitting points. This match will not be head-to-head. The away bowlers will begin first. It is good as always to have you along with us. First of all, I'd like to highlight a couple things for those interested. This broadcast should have subtitles and live captioning enabled, so if you enjoy this feature, please feel free to enable it in the controls below. If you're watching this broadcast on YouTube, the transcript feature will also likely be available. We're going to start off with Rob Melanson, who drops 9, who was on the headpin, and Bryan Hebert on the left with a split. So again today, this is not going to be a head-to-head match. The bowlers have elected to bowl opposite of one another, away bowlers and then home bowlers. Rob Melanson misses the 1 for the mark, and Bryan Hebert is just a little bit off himself. Rob Melanson will clean up for a 10 box for what we might call a Paul Grant special. And Bryan Hebert will take a 9 to start out with. First box of the day is a Paul Grant special where you miss the second and get the third. That's a $1 donation to Candlepins per Cancer per occurrence. All right, folks. So throughout the match, I'll describe the play-by-play action and provide up-to-the-minute scoring to the best of my ability. Keep an eye on the unofficial scoreboard on your screen. It's here for the benefit of the broadcast while the bowlers maintain the official book records separately. Scores may be subject to review or correction. That's Rob Melanson with a 7 drop, and that's Bryan Hebert with a complete miss on everything on the first ball. Rob Melanson on the 9-10-6. He'll collide with the 10 and leave everything else. It's Bryan Hebert on the pocket, almost a second ball strike spare, but the 5-pin is all that's left. Rob Melanson is shooting for an 8, 9, or 10 box, and it will be a 9, 19 after 2 for Rob Melanson. Bryan Hebert all the while will take a 10 box of his own, both bowlers, 19 after 2. Folks, I may occasionally pause to verify scores if things seem out of sync. I appreciate your patience if that occurs. If you're watching this on YouTube later on, there may be times where I may include some notes in the description if I catch scoring errors in post-production, so please be sure to check those out. That's Rob Melanson to the left of the headpin with a mild washout. Hebert on the headpin with the right side triangle, 7 drop. Rob Melanson will fire first. On the 1-3 pocket, he leaves the 5-7-10. Rough leave. Bryan Hebert on the triangle gets 66% of the triangle. Leaves the 6. Bunch of 6s. Rob Melanson versus the 5-7-10, and that's nothing to talk about there. That'll be a 7 box and then a 9 box for Bryan Hebert. 28 after 3 for Bryan Hebert and 26 after 3 for Rob Melanson. Rob Melanson has 1 headpin shot for 3. Bryan Hebert is 2 for 3. Rob Melanson opens up with a 6 drop. On the headpin that time. Bryan Hebert all the while with a split of his own 7 drop, 5-7. Melanson for the spare. He's just off the right of the diamond. And Hebert, he'll take the 5 and leave the 2 and the 7 on the deck. No mark for either of our bowler. As we march towards the final ball of the 4th frame of the first game in this 5-game series of Candlepin bowling today, and Rob Melanson with a nice shot on the diamond. The diamond wins most of the time, but not that time. And in fact, let's get a little replay of that because that was pretty to see. Even though it was just a 10 box, look at that, the way Rob Melanson just beamed down the diamond. Great shot by Rob Melanson, 36 after 4. 36 after 4 for Bryan Hebert as well. And Rob Melanson is dropping 7 to the left of the headpin. Bryan Hebert on the headpin with a split and pin still mixing, 7 drop. Bryan Hebert's got the 3-7-10. Rob Melanson's got the 1-8-9. Rob Melanson will fire first. Take the 1, take the 8, and the 9. That's a spare for Rob Melanson. Bryan Hebert also with a spare. We'll get a replay of both of those kicked in. Just a moment. Let's see here. So there's Rob Melanson's spare. Look at that. Awesome spare by Rob Melanson. But then Bryan Hebert wasn't going to take that laying down. He said, hey, Rob, let me show you something. 2 spares in a row for both of our bowlers with replays. And oh my goodness, that's the half already. So okay, so let's assess the halves. That's 46 and a ball after 5 for Rob Melanson, and 46 after 5 and a ball for Bryan Hebert. They are perfectly in sync with one another. And we're now going to say hello to our home bowlers today, Paul Kravitz and Derek Bankus. We have 2 newcomers here today on my program. It's Derek Bankus on your right in the black. He's a home bowler. Rob Melanson is the other newcomer. He just bowled. And Derek Bankus will lead off. Bit of a yippee first ball on the 10. And Paul Kravitz is on the head pin. He drops 8, leaving just the 5. Bankus on the second ball, nice recovery. Both bowlers are left with the 5 pin for a spare. Paul Kravitz will get a spare. Spare on the 5. And then Derek Bankus all the while will take a 9. Let's see that again. There's Paul Kravitz's spare on the single pin. There it goes. Derek Bankus will lead off first. On lane 32 here at Leda Lanes in Nashua, New Hampshire. Leda Lanes just wrapped up their Sunday special, their Sunday bowling special. All you can bowl until noon. That's a 6-pack for Derek Bankus. Check his ID. A 6-pack. The left side 6-pack. And that's on the spare. That's a 5-drop for Paul Kravitz. And Derek Bankus almost gets the spare. Leaves the 4. Paul Kravitz 1, 2, 4, 9, 10. And he'll leave the 2, the 4, and the 10 on the deck. No mark. Derek Bankus will take a nice 10 box for 19 after 2. Paul Kravitz with a 7 in the second for 22. So far, the leader of head pins is Bryan Hebert. 4 head pin shots, 3 splits for 5 boxes so far, followed by Rob Melanson, 2 for 5, with no splits. Derek Bankus is to the right of the head pin. Drops 7. Paul Kravitz is also slightly out of the right of the head pin on the 3 pocket, but pins are still mixing. 6 drop, 1, 2, 4, 10. Look at Bankus' shot, 1, 3, 7. I think that could go. Well, it goes if you hit the object pin. He hit the 3, and that took the 7, left the 1. Paul Kravitz has the 1, 2, 4, 10. And he's on it. Will the ball come over to take the 10? Oh, it almost did, but it just took the exit right before the one containing the 10 pin. That's a 10 box for Derek Bankus. After 3, he's at 29. Paul Kravitz, that's a 10 box. After 3, he's at 32. Again, great to have you along with us on this Sunday afternoon. I'm Steve Kelly for the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour and 3-ball spare conglomerate. Sunday brunch bowling here at Leda Lanes is Class C and E North doubleheader. Derek Bankus on the head pin. He'll drop slow 9, but leave the 6. Paul Kravitz is on the right, and the right area, right region pocket, drops 7, 1, 2, 4. Let's see what Derek Bankus has on offer for the 6 pin for a single pin spare. Oh, and he's just off to the right. And now we have Paul Kravitz for a spare, 1, 2, 4, and he's off to the right as well. Both bowlers missing their marks. This will be Derek Bankus for a 10 box on the 6 on the retry. And he'll miss it to the left this time. That's a 9 for Bankus, 38 after 4. Paul Kravitz will also miss as well. Both bowlers trying to match each other, but not in a good way. 38 after 4 for Derek Bankus and 39 after 4 for Paul Kravitz. Why don't we talk about some of our bowlers today? We'll start with Derek Bankus. He has a season record of 32 and 66 with 7 matches played. At home, he's 17 and 25. Away, he's 15 and 41, and that's a banana split for Derek Bankus, starting out as 6 drop. And that's not a headpin shot for Paul Kravitz. He has a pile of pins in the center. Yes, the banana split, the 7-10-4-6. Where's Casey McCool? And Derek Bankus will take half of the split to go and leave the other half. I guess he'll ask for a box later on. And Paul Kravitz will punch 1. No mark for either bowler. Derek Bankus is shooting for an 8, 9, or 10 box. He'll fire first on lane 32, and he'll clean up the split. He'll finish off the banana split for 48 after 5, and that's a 7 for Paul Kravitz, and that should put Paul Kravitz at 46 after 6. Every bowler 46 after 5, minus the fills, except for Derek Bankus, who's at 48. So that's the current situation. Derek Bankus in the lead by 2, and he's the only one with any lead as of right now. But we haven't counted fills yet. Here comes Bryan Hebert. And he'll take 2 on his fill, unfortunately. Rushed that one a little bit. Wasn't on the head pin, was off the right. It was a lemon drop and a friend, and that's Rob Melanson on his fill, and that's 8. Hebert sails right through the void. So the third ball is going to be important for Bryan Hebert. Rob Melanson misses his mark. And Hebert will take a 5 box after all said and done. Rob Melanson will take 8 after all is said and done. It'll be Rob Melanson on your left from the back camera perspective, and Bryan Hebert on your right, again from the back camera perspective. When we switch to the front camera, then things crisscross. Physics. Here comes Bryan Hebert. Oh, and he punches to the right. Very consistent on the right, but that's a half Worcester for Bryan Hebert. Rob Melanson's off to the left of the head pin. The half Worcester's when you punch the 3 and the 9 or the 2 and the 8. And here comes Bryan Hebert on the recovery of the half Worcester, and he's good at getting these, but he leaves the 2 and the 7. No mark for Bryan Hebert. And Rob Melanson will just miss the object pin to the left a little bit. Bryan Hebert will take a nice 10 box. Excuse me. 10 box for Bryan Hebert. Rob Melanson will take a 6 for 68 and 7, 63 and 7 for Bryan Hebert. And those scores are confirmed. Bryan Hebert leads off. Better ball to the left of the head pin, drops 6, I believe. Right side 4 horsemen. Rob Melanson on the head pin drops all but the 5 pin. Here comes Bryan Hebert on the horseman. Punches hard. Punches the 1, leaves the 3, 6, 10. Rob Melanson will clean up for a spare. Bryan Hebert, 3, 6, 10. He'll take a 9. Let's look at Rob Melanson's spare again real quick. That single pin on the 5. Those are way harder than it looks, I'll tell you that. And there it goes. That's the spare for Rob Melanson. Bryan Hebert down there. To the right of the head pin, washes out. Rob Melanson's off to the left, and that fill is 5. 4 horsemen right side and the 7. And Bryan Hebert's off to the left, takes the 7, leaves everything else. Rob Melanson on the 1, 3, 6, 7, 10. Oh, and it goes. That's a fantastic spare by Rob Melanson. You bet we're going to have a replay of that in just a moment. And Hebert, it's a 4 box, unfortunately. Let's look at Rob Melanson's spare all the while on the 4 horsemen right side and the 7. And that goes. Rob Melanson's spare. All right, Bryan Hebert will lead off. Final first ball of the first game. On the head pin, splits it up. 5 drop, 7, 10, 4, 6, 3. Rob Melanson on the pocket, drops 8, splits it up, but gets a nice fill of 8. Hebert on the 7, 10, 4, 6, 3. It'll take 2, leave 3. Oh, and Rob Melanson's just off to the right of the object 6 pin. He had the exact right idea. And Hebert's going to clean up for a 7 for a first game of 83. A 1 mark 83 for Bryan Hebert. Rob Melanson on the 6-7 for the retry. He'll take 1. He'll pick a stick. That's 110. Game 1 for Rob Melanson. Robert Melanson. 110 with 3 spares, and he went 5 for 10 on the head pin with 2 splits. Bryan Hebert went 5 for 10 on the head pin with 4 splits. But the difference is your ability to get marks, and of course fill those marks. Bryan Hebert with an 83, Rob Melanson with 110. They're not bowling each other, but it's just for comparison's sake, as those are the only 2 bowlers that have finished a full game. And we are not bowling head-to-head today. Again, it's away bowlers, then home bowlers. Say hello to Paul Kravitz next, and then followed by Derek Bankus. Paul Kravitz will take a half Worcester. And then Derek Bankus. Neither bowler on the head pin, but Bankus got a nice drop of 7. And Kravitz will take 2 more outs. Sorry, someone literally just decided to walk into the camera for some reason, so... Five for Kravitz, 8 for Bankus. And Kravitz is to the right of the head pin. And Bankus will take a nice mix of 8, 9 even, not a split. Let's work on the spare. And no mark for Bankus. No mark for Kravitz. And that will be the 2 and the 10 left for Paul Kravitz for an 8. Bankus on the 7, 2 misses in a row. That'll be a 9 box for Derek Bankus. So Derek Bankus, that's 3 headpin shots for 7 with 1 split. Paul Kravitz, just 1 headpin shot, no splits today. Paul Kravitz leads off to the left of the headpin. It's a mix of, I believe, 3 with a sleeper down. Bankus to the right of the headpin. Center diamonds, the 6-10, and then 5 and 8 for Paul Kravitz. He'll take 1 more out and leave everything on the deck. And Derek Bankus will take a few more out, leaving 4 on the deck, 6 down. 4 down, 6 up for Paul Kravitz for the 10 box, and he'll take an 8. That's a 9 box for Derek Bankus. 74 for Derek Bankus after 8, that's confirmed, and 67 after 8 for Paul Kravitz, that is also confirmed. And on the head pin, that's a 7 drop for Paul Kravitz. And a 9 drop for Derek Bankus on the 5 pin. 4-5-2 triangle for Paul Kravitz on the 5 pin. Single pin spare for Derek Bankus. Paul Kravitz, the wood in front of that triangle, however, I failed to mention, deflected the ball away for the spare attempt, and Derek Bankus is off to the left. Derek Bankus still hunting for a mark, and Paul Kravitz 1 mark. Bryan Hebert 1 mark. Rob Melanson 3 marks. That's a nice recovery for Paul Kravitz on the triangle, and that's a 10 box as well for Derek Bankus. All right, we look at that again. Look at that triangle by Paul Kravitz, the way that goes, and then the 10 box going for Derek Bankus. 10 boxes all around for everyone. Paul Kravitz, final ball of the first game to close out. He's off to the right of the head pin. Bankus will sail to the right of the head pin as well and wash out for a 6-pack on the left. Check his ID. We ID at Leda Lanes. And speaking of IDs, you want some awesome drinks, check out Kegler's Den at Leda Lanes. Awesome taps, awesome drinks, awesome atmosphere. Check it out. Kegler's Den. It's where the bowlers and the crew eat. No mark for either bowler. Paul Kravitz is shooting for a 10 box. He'll get a 9, leaving the 5. And Derek Bankus, that will be a 7 box. Checking our scores here. End of the first game in this 5-game series. 110 for Rob Melanson. 91 for Derek Bankus, confirmed. And then 83 for Bryan Hebert versus 86 for Paul Kravitz. Paul Kravitz will take the first game by 3. That's the story of the first game here on the tour, on the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. Gonna say hello to our away bowlers again. It'll be Bryan Hebert and Rob Melanson. All of our bowlers wearing black today, or navy blue. Bryan Hebert's in a navy blue shirt, actually. Actually, so is Rob Melanson. I'm just not good at seeing colors today, apparently. Rob Melanson drops 6 down. Hebert splits off a few from the left side of the head pin. Oh, and the 7 pin falls late for Rob Melanson. He got a bonus. Rob Melanson on the 1, 2, 4. Leaves the head pin, no mark. Bryan Hebert sails off to the right. No mark for either of our bowlers. Melanson will take 9. And Hebert will take 6 to open up the second game here at the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. Talking about Rob Melanson, he has a season record of 33 and 107 with an away record of 17 and 53. Again, he's the away bowler today. And pins will mix down for 8 for Melanson. Bryan Hebert's on the head pin on the 1-3 pocket this time. Much better ball, 7 drop and a split. Be the 1-10 for Melanson and the 2-7-10 for Hebert. Rob Melanson has a season average of 95.3 and a away average of 98.1. High single 130, high series 523, and he won't get his mark, and neither will Hebert. Rob Melanson was on the object pin, Hebert was not. Rob Melanson has 11 strikes, 76 spares, and 90 tens for the season. 35% perfect box percentage. That will be a 9 box for Rob Melanson. And an 8 box for Bryan Hebert. And that will put them at... Hebert is at 14 after 2. Rob Melanson is at 18 after 2. Just standing by for the score correction to make it official. And it looks like it is in officially now. Rob Melanson has 4,765 seasonal total pins. He's a newcomer to my streams. This is his first time on my streams. Rob Melanson is currently 4th place in Class C North Division 3. He's the 16th seed in C North overall. Here comes Rob Melanson. It's the left of the head pin. Bryan Hebert's off to the right of the head pin. Washes out 2. Rob Melanson takes a couple out all over the deck. Melanson fires, and he's again off target a little bit, but a little bit closer to the head pin, no mark. Hebert's on the head pin, everything goes but the 5. It was a much better ball, despite it was kind of bouncy. Kind of bounced off the foul line a little bit. At least that's my conjecture. Rob Melanson will take 7. Hebert will take a 10 to clean up. 24 after 3 for Hebert, 25 after 3 for Rob Melanson. Three spares for Rob Melanson. Today, he's the leader of the marks. No bowler has bowled a strike yet. Paul Kravitz has 1 spare. Bryan Hebert has 1 spare. Derek Bankus still yet to find any. That's Rob Melanson off the left of the head pin. And Bryan Hebert on the head pin with a split to work on down there. 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 9 for Hebert. Melanson, who took out the left side Candlepin corner. Second ball goes where the first ball went. Hebert with a spare attempt on the split. Well, he'll play the back area. He'll leave the 2, 3, 6. Robert Melanson on the 1-3 pocket. He's left with a 9 box, and Hebert will take 8. 34 after 4 for Rob Melanson, and 32 after 4 for Bryan Hebert. Bryan Hebert has 7 headpin shots for 14 today with 6 splits. Rob Melanson, 5 headpin shots for 14 with 2 splits. That is your headpin and split update. Rob Melanson to the right of the headpin drops 5. 4 horsemen left side of the 9. Bryan Hebert with a bouncy ball, and that will be a lemon drop on the 4 pin. Lemon drop is a first ball punch out on the 4 with the 6 pins. A $1 donation to Candlepins per cancer per occurrence, and a $5 donation if it's on a mark. Rob Melanson is on the object pin, but a little bit too full. Leaves the 7-9-4. Bryan Hebert. Oh, and he wasn't on the object pin, but he got a nice mix. He left everything, but he took everything but the 8 and the 9. And Melanson cleans up for a nice 10 box. Great 10 box by Rob Melanson. And Bryan Hebert, nice 10 box of his own. I think that's replay worthy. Look at that. Here's Rob Melanson's 10. That was a difficult 10 box too. Look at that. And then Bryan Hebert right behind him said once again, just like last time, he goes, I'm going to show you something. So anyways, that's the end of the half for our bowlers with their 10 boxes. And 44 after 5 for Rob Melanson. No headpin shots, no splits. Bryan Hebert, 2 headpin shots, 2 splits, 42 half. And we're going to resume the action immediately with Derek Bankus, who's on the right side from the back camera perspective. He drops all but 1 pin. on the head pin. Both bowlers on the head pin. Bankus with a single pin spare opportunity. He just misses it. Paul Kravitz will take a nice spare. That's a nice light ball and a spare for Paul Kravitz. And Bankus will get a nice 10 box, though. That's what we might call a Paul Grant special. Miss a second, get the third. But there's the spare again by Mr. Paul Kravitz. Yes, the Paul Grant special. You miss the second, get the third. $1 donation in Candlepin for cancer per occurrence. Here comes Derek Bankus on the head pin again. 6 drop. Left side check mark. And that's a 1 fill for Paul Kravitz, unfortunately, on the 7 pin. Derek Bankus on the check mark. The left side check mark, 7-4-5-2. 2-4-5-7, if you want to go the opposite direction. Bankus will spare it up. And Kravitz still a working box. 4 in the center and 2 in the back. 6 up, 4 down for Paul Kravitz. And that's going to end up being a 7 box for Paul Kravitz. Let's look at that spare on the check mark by Derek Bankus again. Look at that. And it just goes. Runs them all down. That's just Derek Bankus clearing a wayward pin. That does not count. So Derek Bankus has a season average of 99.65 when he's at home, and he's the home bowler today. His home average is 102.2. His high single, 135. His high series, 558. 8 strikes, 61 spares, and 55 tens. 35% perfect box percentage and 34.75 seasonal total pins per Derek Bankus. He's number 4 in Class C North Division 1 and 14th seed in C North overall. That's a split for Derek Bankus on his spare. 6 fill. Kravitz with an awkward split of 5. 4-6-2-7 for Derek Bankus. It's a light kick on the 2-4 pocket. Leaves the 6 and the 7. Kravitz on the 7-8-10-3-6 takes the 6, leaves everything else. And that's going to be a 9 box for Derek Bankus for 35 after 3. And that will be a 7 box for Paul Kravitz for 25 after 3. Just wanted to fix the camera there. Sorry, I got a little bumped earlier. I don't know how this happened, but someone literally walked right into the tripod despite a huge cable being there, but neither here nor there. So we will resume immediately with Derek Bankus. On the head pin, mix a 7 and a split, 5-6-10. Paul Kravitz on the head pin with a split of his own, 7-10-6. 5-6-10 for Bankus. Takes the 10, leaves the 5 and the 6. Kravitz. Oh, he almost gets a pretty spare. The 6 and the 7 go, but the 10 does not. Deflection of the wood defeated that attempt. Bankus picks a stick, and we'll take a 9 box, leaving the 6 on the deck. Kravitz versus the 10 for a 10 box. It'll be a 9. Derek Bankus today, 8 headpin shots, 3 splits. Paul Kravitz, 5 headpin shots for 14 with 2 splits. That's out of 14 for Derek Bankus as well. Bankus to the right of the headpin. He'll wash out a few, leave the center pile of pins. It's a half Worcester for Kravitz, a 2 drop on the 2 and the 8. Clinic a half Worcesters today. Punch Out City. And Derek Bankus will take a few more out. And Paul Kravitz on the half Worcester spare. Can he take it? Oh, he almost took it. He left the 5 on the deck. Bankus for the 10. And oof, he'll take a 5 to end the half at 49. And that'll be a 10 box for Kravitz, 44 half. So 44 to 49, Melanson and Bankus. 32 to 44, Hebert versus Kravitz. And all those scores are confirmed. All right. So welcome back to the action. It's going to be Bryan Hebert leading off first with a 3-pin spread eagle. Rob Melanson with a split of his own. Not as bad as Bryan's, though. Hebert tries to clean up, starting with the right side. Leaves 4 pins. Rob Melanson, 7, 9, 10, 4, 6. Takes the right triangle, leaves the left 2. Hebert will take a 6 box after that spread eagle. Hebert 8 for 16 on the head pin today, 50%. 9 box for Rob Melanson. 6 for 16 on the head pin with 3 splits for Rob Melanson. Here comes Bryan Hebert. To the right of the head pin. Drops 6. Melanson on the head pin. He's left with a 7, 9, 10, 3, 6. Here comes Bryan Hebert on the 1, 2, 4, and 8. Just off. Just a little bit off. Rob Melanson's still same amount of pins on the deck. 5 down, 5 up. For a potential... Well, it's going to be greater than a 6 box for Bryan Hebert. It'll be 8. 56 and 7. Melanson will take an 8 for 61 in 7. Again, not a lot of marks today. Rob Melanson currently with 3. Rob Melanson totaling 21 in fills, averaging 7 per fill right now. Bryan Hebert on the head pin. Mixes 5, 7, 10 split. And a right side 4 horsemen for Rob Melanson. Hebert will fire first. On the 5, 7, 10, he almost gets it. But the piece of wood to the left of the 5 didn't go get the 7. Rob Melanson now. 1, 3, 6, 10. 1, 3 goes. 6, 10 does not. No mark for either bowler. Hebert shooting for a 10 box with a 9 box guarantee. It'll be a 9. 65 and 8 for Bryan Hebert. Every other box has been a headpin shot and a split for Bryan Hebert so far, and that's a 10 box for Rob Melanson. So, yeah, if you look at that headpin and split array for Bryan Hebert, it's very interesting. It's every other box has been on and off. We'll see what this one's going to be. Oh, he's on the headpin breaking the streak, but it is a split. Another split. Bryan Hebert's been so unlucky with the splits today. That's a 7 drop. Right side hit for Melanson off target. Bryan Hebert, 4, 5, 7. Here he goes. Takes the 5. 4 and 7 stay. Melanson, nice spare. Takes everything out after he took out a Candlepin corner on the first ball. 3 drop spare. That's a 9 box for Hebert. Anyways, here's the second ball again. Bryan Hebert just missing a spare, but here's Rob Melanson making his spare as he fires on that. Look at that all go. And the 5 pin was the tricky one, but it did go. All right, Bryan Hebert. A lot of headpin shots and a lot of splits this game. On the headpin again. And oh, not a split. 8 drop. Merciful pin fell. Melanson to the right of the headpin. Drops 6. Fills 6. It's 87 and 9 for Melanson. Bryan Hebert on the 4-7. That's a spare for Bryan Hebert. Needed that one. 84 and a ball in the second game. With 1 bonus ball to go. Rob Melanson. Will he get... Oh, my goodness. The 7 pin just doesn't play nice. Looked great on paper, but the 7 pin is left on the deck. And Melanson will take a 9 for 96 and 10. Bryan Hebert has 1 ball to go before we finish up. Finish up the second game with our 2 home bowlers to close out. So Bryan Hebert, bonus ball. Hope it's something good. Bryan Hebert fires. To the left of the head pin. He's been finding his center right now. That's a 5 fill. Not bad. 89 second game for a 2-game total of 172 for Bryan Hebert. 96 second game for Rob Melanson for a 2-game total of 206. 110.96 for Rob Melanson. 83.89 for Bryan Hebert. That's a story, and we'll assess all the leads and the totals at the end of this upcoming half here for the home bowlers on the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. It's great to have you along. It's going to be Paul Kravitz, who will lead off, followed by Derek Bankus. It's Rob Melanson at Derek Bankus today, and Bryan Hebert at Paul Kravitz today. And Paul Kravitz will lead off to the left of the head pin. Drops 5, drops 6. Late falling pin. Derek Bankus will get a mix of 7, 1, 3, 4. Paul Kravitz 1, 5, 3, 8. It's just off target, leaves the 1 and the 8. Derek Bankus 1, 3, 4. 1, 3, 4. I believe. Whatever it is, that's a spare for Derek Bankus. Paul Kravitz will take an 8 box. Let's look at Derek Bankus' spare again. 1, 3. It's either the 4 or the 8, and that's just my eyes failing me. Whatever, it's a spare. Great spare by Derek Bankus. Paul Kravitz now. On the pocket, on the head pin, drops 7, left side Candlepin corners left. The 7, 8, 4. Derek Bankus on a spare. He'll split it up and drop 6. 7, 10, 5, 6. 7, 8, 4 for Paul Kravitz, and it goes. That's a spare for Mr. Kravitz. Not Mr. Krabs, Mr. Kravitz. And Derek Bankus isn't so lucky. Punches the 5. 7, 10, 6. Bankus for the 10. It'll be a 7. And I think I got this on replay. Oh, I'm sorry. Thought I did. I hit the hotkey too late. It's one of those situations where if both bowlers are in potential mark situations, I want to try to get both in the same replay, but it's only a 10-second buffer, so it's kind of a sweet spot, but also not a sweet spot at the same time. But anyways, Kravitz got a left side Candlepin corner spare, and now he's on the fill. To the right of the head pin, drops 5. Fills 5. Bankus on the head pin, and it's a strike for Derek Bankus. First blood. Strike. 82 in a ball for Derek Bankus in the 8th. Paul Kravitz just off to the right of the head pin. 1, 2, 4, 7, 10. No mark. Shooting for a 10 box, 5 box guarantee, and he filled with 5. He's at 67 after 7 with that mark and a 5 fill. And that will be an 8 for Paul Kravitz. Let's see that again for Derek Bankus. Look at that strike. The 5 pin was the last one to fall, and it went. So that was where we last left Derek Bankus. He's on a mark. Paul Kravitz will lead off first. Kravitz fires. Ball was kind of off target from the beginning. Went off to the right. Bankus on a strike. He's on the pocket. Punches way too full to split so far. Spread eagle. Kravitz pile of pins. 3 drop. He's off to the left of the head pin, and there's 7 down now. 1, 3, 8. Bankus on the eagle to oh, and it almost goes. The 2 pin falls last. That's a 9 fill on the strike and a 91 after 8 for Derek Bankus. Paul Kravitz has the 1, 3, 8, and he'll take a 9 for an 84 and 9. And that will be a 10 box for Derek Bankus. And that will be 101 and 9 for Derek Bankus, crossing the 100 threshold. Paul Kravitz 84. He needs 5 pins to tie Bryan Hebert and 6 to take all 2 points in this game. Bankus already has a guarantee of the second game. That strike really propelling him over. And Paul Kravitz, oh, he almost gets the strike. Leaves the 10. Derek Bankus is off to the left of the head pin. That was Paul Kravitz versus the 10 pin. Bankus versus the center diamond in the back right Candlepin corner. And that's a spare for Paul Kravitz. And Derek Bankus, same thing. Spares for both. I think I got both. There was Paul Kravitz's single pin spare. And here comes Derek Bankus on the 3 drop. On the 3 drop spare. Look at that go. And there, that was how it went. So we now have Paul Kravitz filling a mark. Here he goes. On the mark fill. This could be... Ooh. That's a awkward 4 fill for Paul Kravitz. Really bizarre. 98 and it will be an 8 fill for Derek Bankus all the while. So that's the end of the second game in regulation, 96 to 119. Derek Bankus will take the second game from Melanson by 23, and then 89 to 98. Paul Kravitz just squeaks by with his 98 to Bryan Hebert's 89. Currently 4 points for Kravitz, 0 points for Hebert, 2 points for Derek Bankus, and 2 points for Rob Melanson. 2-game total of 184 for Paul Kravitz, 2-game total of 210 for Derek Bankus. That's the story of the second game. As we move on to the third game here at the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. Again, great to have you along with us, as always. My name is Steve Kelly. Hope you're having an awesome Sunday afternoon. We're going to open up with Rob Melanson in the dark navy blue shirt on your right from the back rear view camera. And Bryan Hebert will be in the dark navy blue shirt on the left from the back rear view camera. And when we're on the front facing view, they are swapped. And I think we're just waiting for... They're just discussing something down there. I think they're all set. Anyways, we're at Leda Lanes today. That's where we are on Amherst Street, Nashua, New Hampshire, established in 1959 with 36 lanes. So I'll show you that slide in just a moment here. 7 drop for Melanson, 1-3-10. Bryan Hebert to the right of the head pin gets a nice mix. A drop of 8, 5-9. Some spare leaves here. Rob Melanson's a little bit more difficult. 1-2-10. We'll take the 2, take the 10, leave the 1. Bryan Hebert on the 5-9. Oh, and he's just off target to the right. Plays the wrong wood. It'll be Rob Melanson on the head pin for a 10. He'll clean up for a 10. Great janitorial work. Bryan Hebert will take a surprising 9, so I guess sometimes it's still frustrating nonetheless, but sometimes it's a little relieving where if you play on the third ball where you intended your second ball to go and it still doesn't go, and you kind of say to yourself, well, I guess it wouldn't have gone anyway. Still frustrating nonetheless, but I guess it's a little mentally reassuring. Rob Melanson on the head pin, dropping 7. Left side Candlepin corners left, 9, 10, 6. Hebert to the right of the head pin, 1, 3, and 10 after all the pins are done mixing down there. Be Rob Melanson on the 9, 10, 6. Oh, and the 9, 10 go, but the 8 does not. Excuse me, not the 6, the 8. Rob Melanson, not Rob Melanson, Bryan Hebert will take the 2 and leave the 1 and the 10. Rob Melanson will take a 9 box. Hebert will take a nice 10 box. 19 after 2 for Hebert, 19 after 2 for Melanson. Those scores are confirmed. And that's a 6 drop for Rob Melanson. And a split. Bryan Hebert with a 9 drop on the 5 pin. Rob Melanson on the 7-10 for 8. Oh, he's just off. He wanted to cap the wood and send it left, but he just missed. And Bryan Hebert misses a single pin spare as well. Rob Melanson for the 10 box, and he'll get 8. Hebert will take 9. That's 28 after 3 for Bryan Hebert and 27 after 3 for Rob Melanson. Oh, and Rob Melanson not on the head pin, takes a few out. Bryan Hebert off to the left. Rob Melanson cleans up for a spare. Awesome spare by Rob Melanson. Hebert's still working on a split down there. Oh, and it'll be a 9 box. Interesting mix to end that there. While we're waiting for that wood clear, let's look at that spare by Rob Melanson again. Right on it, and there it goes. Awesome job. Still working on clearing that wood. So yes, again, we're at Leda Lanes today on Amber Street in Nashua, New Hampshire, the former home of WNDS Candlepin Stars and Strikes, which were filmed on lanes 33 and 34. We are on lanes 31 and 32 today, so you do kind of see them in view. You can see the lighting fixtures kind of still up in the ceiling. Those are from the old days. You can see those way up there. Yes, those are from the WNDS days, believe it or not. And Melanson, I believe that's going to be a 3-fill on the split on the spare. Hebert not on the head pin, drops a few. It will be a 3-fill for Melanson. And he's off to the right on the second ball, no mark. Leaves 5 on the deck. Hebert. Oh, and it's an awesome spare by Hebert. He just had a cluster of pins down there. We got the spare. We'll get the replay on that in a second. Melanson. Clean up for a 7 box. Here's Hebert's spare. Or, sorry, Melanson's. Ball first, then Hebert's spare. Look at that. There it goes. That's Hebert's spare. On the right of the head pin. Took it all out. Oh, and so 47 after 4 for Melanson, 47 after 4 for Hebert. Things are moving fast here, so sorry for showing that quickly. It's just the bowlers are eager to go. Derek Bankus. Drops 5, not on the head pin. Paul Kravitz will split it up, leaving the 5 and the 10. 47-47 is confirmed for Melanson and Hebert, by the way. And Bankus will take all but 2, leaving the 1 and the 9. This is Derek Bankus' first season in the ACST, as far as I know, in Class C North Division 1. 29th highest Class C North average at 99.65. No mark for either bowler here. Derek Bankus in his past 5 matches has taken 26 points, averaging 5.2 per match. In his past 5 matches, he's totaled 25.08 in total pinfall, averaging 501.6 per match. 8 for Bankus and 9 for Kravitz. After 1. Derek Bankus has 1 match out of 7 at or over 550 in grand total pinfall in the match. His longest streak of strings at or over 100 has been 3. He has 5 out of 7 matches with double-digit wins, however. It's a great win rate right there. That's an 8 drop for Derek Bankus. 6-8. Oops. And Kravitz, not on the head pin, drops 6. 1-3-8-9 for Kravitz and 6-10 for Bankus. Bankus is off to the left. And Kravitz just off to the right. Takes 1. No mark for either bowler. Derek Bankus on average goes 21 for 50 on the head pin with 9.6 splits per match. He averages 5.67 points per home match. That's a 10 box for Derek Bankus, and that's a PGS. Missed the second, get the third situation. Paul Kravitz will take an 8. And the Paul Grant Special, miss the second, get the third. $1 donation to Candlepin Spur Cancer for every occurrence. Here comes Derek Bankus on lane 32 at Leda Lanes in Nashua, New Hampshire. On the head pin, explosive splash, 7 drops, 7 and a split. Kravitz was on the head pin, but got a 7 drop as well, and possibly a better mix. 1-3-7, no wood, but Derek Bankus does have wood to help him along the 4 pin. Bankus is going to play that wood, and he'll almost get the bounce, but the ball doesn't come back to get the 10. Oops. Sorry, I clicked the wrong button. Paul Kravitz also misses the mark, leaves the 7. And Bankus will take 9 for 27 after 3. That'll be a 9 for Paul Kravitz as well as 27 after 3 for Bankus, 26 after 3 for Paul Kravitz. Derek Bankus is 13 for 23 on the head pin today with 6 splits. Paul Kravitz 8 for 23 on the head pin today with 3 splits. Here comes Derek Bankus to the left of the head pin. Dropping 6. Paul Kravitz also on the left. But almost gets a nice backdoor Julian strike, but gets 80% of the way there, at least the 1 the 5. Bankus on the 1-5-9-10. Oh, I can't quite get the cut. Well, he gets the cut, but he doesn't get the full shot. Leaves the 5 and the 9. On the 1 and 5 for Paul Kravitz, and he'll take the 5 and leave the 1. He was just a little off target. Bankus, 8, 9, or 10. It'll be a 9. Paul Kravitz, it'll be a 9 or 10 as well on the head pin, and it will go. That's a 10 box 36 after 4 for Paul Kravitz, and 36 after 4 for Derek Bankus. Score is confirmed. It is worth noting that it appears that Paul Kravitz has a current total of 219 versus my count of 220, so I think I might have hit him a pin where they might have deducted it somewhere, so just keep that in mind. I also always bear in mind the score on the stream is always unofficial. Always happens at least once somewhere, so we'll figure it out. And the bowlers have the final records entirely separate from mine. Derek Bankus on the mark on the 3-6-10. He takes the 3, leaves the 6 and the 10. 1-2-4-7 for Paul Kravitz. He hits the 1 and leaves everything else. Bankus for the 6-10. It goes. 10 box, 46 after 5. And a 7 box for Paul Kravitz for 43 after 5. 43 after 5, Kravitz down by Hebert's 47 and a ball after 5. Energizing Bryan Hebert a little bit. Derek Bankus down by 1, 46 after 5 to Rob Melanson's 47 after 5. That's your 2.5 game halftime score update. Bankus has the match by 3. Kravitz has the total by 8. To give you the idea of who's the leaders of what. Hebert not on the headpin. Fills with 6. And Melanson not on the headpin drops 7. It'll be Hebert on the 1-3-7-8. He's on the 3. He leaves the 1-7-8. Melanson 1-3-9. Will he get the he'll get the steal for a spare. Rob Melanson on the board with another spare this game. Bryan Hebert will take 7. See if we can get that. Well, there's Bryan Hebert's attempt on the spare. But here comes Rob Melanson on the 1-3-9. And he collides. It was almost a disaster with that cap of the wood, but it was enough to take everything. And I think they're just fixing something down there. I don't know. Not quite sure what's happening at the moment, so we'll just wait on that. Anyways, so it's... folks, if you want to donate to an awesome cause for the Candlepin community, there's Candlepins for Cancer. Go to candlepins4cancer.com to sign up for qualifying roll-offs or to donate. The current roll-offs are at Amesbury, Massachusetts at Riverwalk Lanes, so check that out. Sign-ups are on the website. It's going to be Bryan Hebert with a mix of 5 despite not being on the headpin, and that's a 1 fill. That's going to be a painful fill and a lemon drop, a $5 lemon drop for Rob Melanson. Hebert almost converts for a spare, leaves the 5. Yes, a lemon drop is $5 if you get it on a mark. But Rob Melanson, that's what he thinks of lemon drops. He almost takes all but the 5, but leaves the 5. Hebert on the 5. Oof. I don't know what happened there. That was a bouncy ball. 69-7 for Hebert, and 67-7 for Rob Melanson. Those scores are confirmed. Here comes Bryan Hebert on lane 32 on the headpin. Drops 6 with a split. Rob Melanson's off to the right, drops 7-1-3-10. Let's take a look at this. Bryan Hebert 4-6-3-10. Oh, he's off to the right in the gutter. No mark. Rob Melanson 1-2-10. He's also off. Both bowlers missing their marks. Hebert will take 3 and leave 1 for a 9 box for 78 and 8. Hebert 12 for 28 on the headpin today with 10 splits. 10 splits. Quite a bit. That's an 8 box for Rob Melanson. 9 for 28 on the headpin with 5 splits for Rob Melanson. That's the current story. Bryan Hebert has totaled 13 in fills, averaging 4.3 per mark. Rob Melanson totaling 31 in fills, averaging 5.2 per mark. Let's talk about Bryan Hebert with a season record of 32 and 94 with 9 matches played. When he's away, he's 16 and 54 with 5 matches played. And neither bowler on the headpin there. 7 drop Melanson. 3 drop for Hebert on the left of the headpin. And he's off target again, but he leaves the 1, the 5, and the 3. Melanson will miss again as well. Bryan Hebert with a season average of 92.9 and an away average of 94.7. A high single 112, high series 494 this season. That will be an 8 box for Bryan Hebert. 86 and 9. Rob Melanson will take a nice 10 and clean up, and that's a Paul Grant special. That's a 10 box and 85 and 9 for Rob Melanson. Bryan Hebert has 9 strikes, 57 spares, and 84 tens with a perfect box percentage of 33, 4,188 CSL total pins. He's currently 5th place in Class E North Division 2 and the 11th seed in Class E North overall. Bryan Hebert with a working first ball, and same for Rob Melanson. Hebert 12 for 30 on the head pin with 10 splits. Melanson 9 for 30 with 5 splits. And Hebert's just a little off. Melanson also just a little off. Melanson 2 left, Hebert 3 left. And Hebert will take a 7. Melanson for the 8, 9, or 10 box. He'll take a 10. Second 10 box in a row. 95, game 3. 3-game total 301 for Rob Melanson. 93, game 3 for Bryan Hebert with a 3-game total of 265. Those scores are confirmed. So our home bowlers are going to close out game 3 here as they get ready to bowl. It'll be Paul Kravitz on the right in the black from the perspective of the back camera, and Derek Bankus on the left. Kravitz opens up with a 6-drop. Both bowlers not on their head pin for the first ball. Kravitz, 1-2-4-7, he's off to the right, misses everything. Bankus, center pile of pins, he leaves 2. Kravitz, 1-2-4-7 for a 10 box, 6 box guarantee, it'll be a 7. 50 after 6 for Kravitz. Bankus will take 8, off to the right. The only one with a strike today has been Derek Bankus. Rob Melanson has 6 spares. Bryan Hebert has 3. Paul Kravitz has 4. Derek Bankus has 3. Derek Bankus currently the leader in headpin shots. Kravitz to the right of the headpin takes the 10. Derek Bankus on the headpin with a banana split 6-drop for his efforts. Paul Kravitz to the left of the headpin on the remedial ball. Here's Derek Bankus on the banana. And he'll take the right, lead the left. Paul Kravitz will take a 9 for his efforts. Puts him at 59 and 7. There's checking the status of a pin down there, but I know for a fact that it's good. 8, 9, or 10 for Bankus, and he'll take a 9 for 63 in 7. Let's talk about Paul Kravitz. He's on the right here. He has a season record of 56 and 84 with 10 matches played when he's at home, and he's a home bowler today. He has a record of 26 and 44 with 5 matches played. Season average 95.25. When he's home, his average is 94.0. He has a high single of 114 and a high series of 511 this season. It's an 8-drop for Paul Kravitz on the 1 and the 9. Bankus to the right of the headpin. Drops 5, I believe. Center diamond in the 9. 1 and the 9 for Paul Kravitz. He's just off by a little bit. Leaves the 1 and the 9. Bankus. He's off as well. Both bowlers off their marks. Paul Kravitz, 8, 9, or 10. It'll be a 9 for Paul Kravitz, 68 and 8. Derek Bankus on the center pile of pins. He leaves the 3. That'll be a 9 for Derek Bankus as well. 72 after 8 for Bankus, 68 after 8 for Paul Kravitz. Here comes Paul Kravitz. On the headpin, a little bit too full. That's a spread eagle, 4-pin, traditional spread eagle for Paul Kravitz. And Bankus on the headpin as well with a 6-drop, the 4, 6, 3, 7. Down there on the deck. Yeah, the spread eagle is when you punch out the center, leaving the left and right wings. It's a very hard shot, as you just saw there. Paul Kravitz plays the 6-10 pocket. Bankus 4, 10, 3, 7 takes the 6. excuse me, 4-6-3-7, and takes the 6. Kravitz. We'll go for an 8 box, 76 and 9. Bankus. We'll take an 8 for 80 and 9. Paul Kravitz to the right of the head pin on lane, on the right on lane 32, excuse me. He collides with a 2-pin, takes a few out. Bankus will take a 3-9 half Worcester. When you punch the 2 and the 8 or the 3 and the 9. Paul Kravitz will take a few more out, leaving 4 on the deck, no mark. Derek Bankus almost spares the half Worcester, but he's left with a 10 and then a 4. It'll be a 7 box for Kravitz, a markless third game, and 83. That's an 8 box for Derek Bankus, also markless, with 88. So Bryan Hebert will take the third game, 93 to Paul Kravitz's 83. That's 2 points for Bryan Hebert. Hebert probably with 2, right now with 2 points. Paul Kravitz with 4 points. Rob Melanson with 4 points. Derek Bankus with 2 points. 3-game totals, 301 for Rob Melanson versus 298 for Derek Bankus, 265 for Bryan Hebert versus 267 for Paul Kravitz. Although there is a note that it seems that Paul Kravitz is actually at 266. So, and I believe that that extra pin I awarded by mistake was in the previous game. So I'm going to do this. I will match what the bowlers have, just to make it hunky-dory. I'm just fixing that in my score real quick. All right. So I updated the totals to match theirs, just to stay in sync and make it easier for everyone. Rob Melanson drops 6. Hebert drops 4 with a 6-pack. Rob Melanson's just off the target. Hebert for his spare on the 6-pack. He'll take 2. He'll take 3 of the 6-pack. And Melanson takes a 9 to start out. Bryan Hebert will take 7. After 1. So to recap, yes, Rob Melanson, 301, 3-game total. Derek Bankus, 298, 3-game total. Hebert, 265, 2-game total. And Paul Kravitz, 266, 2-game total, after making the corrections. Melanson's off target to the left. Hebert's on target, but splits it up. 5 drop for Hebert. 2 drop from Melanson. Rob Melanson with a spare. Animated reaction there from Rob Melanson. Hebert was just a little bit off. Bouncy ball, no mark. Hebert's got the 7-10, 4-6-2 for a 10 box. He'll take 1 for a 6 box. Let's get a look at that spare by Rob Melanson on the pile of pins. No wood, no anything. Just had just a good old-fashioned beat down on the 1-3 pocket. Bryan Hebert has the 18th highest Class C North average at 92.9, and that's a split for Rob Melanson. Hebert not on the head pin, drops 6, leaves the 4 horseman left side. 8 drop, 8 fill for Rob Melanson on the 2 and the 6. He'll take the 2, and the 6 is unharmed. Picks a stick. Bryan Hebert will take 2, 4, 7, and leave the 1. Melanson takes 9. 36 after 3. Hebert takes 9. 22 after 3. Bryan Hebert has the 10th Class C North average strike fill at 7.89. In his past 5 matches, he's taken 20 points. In his past 5 matches, he's totaled 22.82 in total pinfall. His longest streak of matches at or over 100 is 2. His number of matches with double-digit wins is 1. And Melanson not on the head pin. Hebert not on the head pin either. Melanson 1, 3, 6, 7, 9, 10. Almost goes. He leaves the 7 on the deck. Hebert 1, 3, 8, 9. Oh, and almost takes everything. The 9 is the only one that doesn't go. Melanson for the 10 box. It'll be a 10. Hebert for the 10 box. It'll be a 10. 32 after 4 for Hebert. 46 after 4 for Mr. Rob Melanson. Bryan Hebert's longest winning streak, 7 points per match or greater, has been 2. His head pin average per match has been 17.5 for 50 this season, with a split average per match of 8.25. Melanson fires first on the head pin. Drops 7 with a split. 7, 10, 6. Hebert to the right of the head pin. 1, 5, 2, 9, 10. Rob Melanson, 7, 10, 6. Sails right through the center void. Hebert takes the 9 out. Robert Melanson. Ooh, nice 10 box for Rob Melanson. Get a nice replay of that in just a moment. That's an 8 box for Bryan Hebert. So it wasn't a mark, but it was still pretty to watch. Watch him get this 10. Had to cap the wood and the ball got deflected off the right sidewall to take the 7. And yes, and this is the half. So 56 after 5 for Rob Melanson and 40 after 5 for Bryan Hebert. That's the current score update halfway through the 4th for those two, for the away bowlers. Here come the home bowlers now. Derek Bankus starts out first with a 5 drop. 4 horsemen left in the 9. Kravitz hits the 6 and takes a few extras out. Bankus will collide with the head pin and not get much else. And Paul Kravitz overcorrects and goes the opposite side this time around. Bankus will take 6. Kravitz will clean up for a 9 after 1. Derek Bankus, 16 headpin shots for 31 with 8 splits. Paul Kravitz, 9 for 31 in the headpin with 4 splits today. Kravitz, the right of the headpin. Takes a few out. Bankus on the headpin with a split 7 drop, 2, 7, 8. Bankus, pile of pins in the center in the back right side Candlepin corner. He's just off target a little bit. Kravitz. He leaves the 2 and the 8. Excuse me, I think I got the names swapped on the first ball. My apologies. That's Derek Bankus with a 7. That'll be a 9 for Paul Kravitz. Sorry, an 8 for Paul Kravitz. Excuse me, that was a sleeper. 13 after 2 for Bankus, 17 after 2 for Kravitz. The scores are all confirmed all around. Comes Derek Bankus on the head pin. Drops 8, splits 8. 3, 4. Paul Kravitz isn't on the head pin, but pins are still mixing. 1, 5, 8, 9. It's like a T-bone on a steak. Bankus. Oh, tries to get the kick and the sweep, but it starts with hitting it. He misses to the right. Kravitz, he'll bean down the T-bone and T-bone the spare. And the 3, 4 for Bankus. He'll miss it again for an 8 box. Let's take a look at this. Paul Kravitz on the T-bone. 1, 5, 8, 9. Right down the center. Perfect full ball. That's the story. Derek Bankus leads off. To the right of the head pin. Mixes down 6. 1, 4, 7, 10. While Kravitz on his fill it's going to be 7. 34 after 4. Bankus 1, 4, 7, 10. And he's off to the left. Takes 2, leaves 2. Paul Kravitz, he'll take 2, leave 1. No mark for either bowler. Bankus on the 1 and the 10. It'll be an 8. Paul Kravitz on the head pin. It'll be a 9. That's 43 after 4 for Paul Kravitz and 29 after 4 for Derek Bankus. Folks, if you live in the area or are willing to make the pilgrimage, check out candlepin.org and click Go Bowling to find your nearest center if you're in New England and Eastern Canada. There's definitely a bowling center all around, and it's lots of fun, so check it out. Derek Bankus drops 9, leaves the 7. He was frustrated with that one. He really wanted that to be a strike. Paul Kravitz drops 6. 1, 3, 6, 9 for Kravitz, and just the 7 pin for Derek Bankus. Bankus just misses it off to the right. No mark. And Paul Kravitz, meanwhile, will spare it up for 53 at the half. That'll be a 9 for Derek Bankus. I think I got that on here. Yeah, here we go. Paul Kravitz right there on the pocket. And it goes. All right, let's assess the totals and the leads and whatnot at the half. 56 after 5 for Rob Melanson. 38 after 5 for Derek Bankus. And 40 after 5 for Bryan Hebert. And 53 after 5 for Paul Kravitz. And the bowlers resuming the action almost immediately. Hebert not on the head pin, and Melanson not on the head pin. No head pin shot for either bowler. Hebert leaves the 5, almost gets a spare. Melanson 1479. And he's on it. Oh, he takes all but the 7. Hebert's on the 5 pin for a 10 box. And that will be a 10 box for Hebert, 50 and 6. Melanson on the 7 for a 10 box. It'll be a 9 for 65 and 6. So at the half, Melanson was up 56 to Derek Bankus' 38. And at the half, Bryan Hebert was down 40 to Paul Kravitz's 53 and a bonus at the 5th. Hebert will face off first to the right of the head pin. Rob Melanson on the pocket. Leaves the 7-10. It's going to be a split. Bryan Hebert on the spare attempt. He's off target, but drops all but the 1 and the 8. Rob Melanson on the 7-10. Tries to get the kick. Tries something fancy. Only takes the 7. Bryan Hebert on the 1-8. It'll be a 9 for Bryan Hebert. Rob Melanson, 9 or 10. That's going to be a fouled 9 box for Rob Melanson, I believe, as they go up to do the score correction, as predicted. Talking about Rob Melanson, he has the 32nd highest Class C North average at 95.3. In his past 5 matches, he's taken 16 points, averaging 3.2 per match. Bryan Hebert, not on the head pin, drops a late falling 8. Not. Melanson will kick a corner out kick a corner pin out, the 10 pin out. Hebert on the 1-9 for spare. He just doesn't get it. Melanson for the fixer of the second ball. He almost gets everything down. He leaves the 7. It's always easier on the second ball, isn't it? Hebert will take 8. 67 and 8 for Hebert. Rob Melanson will take 10, 84 and 8. Bryan Hebert averages 3.20 points per away match. Past 5 matches, he's had 3 strikes, 29 spares, and 49 tens. And performs slightly better when he's at home versus away. And that's a split for Rob Melanson and a pile of pins for Bryan Hebert. 1, 2, 4, 7, 8, 10 for Bryan Hebert. He's on the head pin there, but too full. Melanson 2, 4, 6, 7, 9 for a spare. Takes 2, leaves 3. Bryan Hebert cleans up for a 10 with janitorial work. 77 and 9. 2, 6, 9 for Rob Melanson. And he'll split the difference for an 8 for 92 and 9 versus 77 and 9 for Bryan Hebert. Bryan Hebert only 1 head pin shot and 1 split this game. 13 for 39 on the head pin with 11 splits today. Rob Melanson, 13 for 39 on the head pin with 9 splits today. And Bryan Hebert's off to the left of the head pin, gets a mix of a few, and that's a half Worcester for Rob Melanson. Rough going for both of our bowlers this game. Bryan Hebert will punch another, leaving 4 on the deck. 6 down. Melanson 2 down, 8 up. He's off target to the left, leaves 5 on the deck. Hebert, 6 or greater. It'll be a 7 punches the head pin and jumps over everything else, leaving the 5, the 3, and the 8. And that's a 5 box. That's a rough 5 box for Rob Melanson as well. 97 for Melanson, 84 for Bryan Hebert. And those scores are confirmed. All right, so we're going to have Paul Kravitz and Derek Bankus return to the approaches. Kravitz on the right. Oops. Bankus on the left. Split for both of our bowlers. Kravitz filled with 5 and then took 1. Bankus misses his mark. 58 and 5 for Kravitz after that 15 in the 5th. That'll be a 7 box for Kravitz. That puts him at 65 and 6 versus Hebert's 50 and 6, and that's a 7 for Bankus, 45 and 6 versus Melanson, 65 and 6. To reclaim the match, Kravitz needs 18 pins and 19 in the game. Melanson needs to recover 55, or Bankus needs to recover 55 in the total and 52 in the game. Kravitz drops 7, not on the head pin. Bankus on the head pin with a split and a drop of 7, 2, 7, 8. And Kravitz will take 1 out and leave the 1 and the 8. Bankus on the 2, 7, 8 for a spare. Bankus punches him right out. That's a spare for Derek Bankus. Kravitz will take a 9 for the 10. Take a 9 in the 3rd. Here's Derek Bankus' spare once again. Just a full shot, and the horizontal wood was super helpful there. Kravitz on lane 32. Leda lanes in Nashua, New Hampshire. It's off to the right. Takes a few out. Bankus is on a mark. Almost on the head pin, but drops 6. 4 horsemen left side. Paul Kravitz for a spare. He's off to the right. Leaves the 1, the 5, and the 8. Bankus is off to the right as well. Kravitz will take an 8. And Bankus will take a 6. 67 in 8 for Bankus compared to 84 in 8 for Rob Melanson. And then 82 in 8 for Paul Kravitz. Compare that to 67 in 8 for Bryan Hebert. And Kravitz just needs 2 more pins to tie in the 4th game. And any more past that will be of the full credit of 2 pins. And that's about it as a split for Paul Kravitz. 7 drop. Headpin shot. And a 6 drop for Derek Bankus. 2, 4, 7, 8 for Bankus. And 5, 6, 7. Or 4, 5, 7 for Paul Kravitz. He takes the 5, leaves the 4 and the 7. And Bankus, just off target, leaves the object pin on the deck. No mark for either bowler. Paul Kravitz for 10 box on the 4 and the 7. That will be a 10 for Kravitz on the 4 and the 7 with the wood. That'll be a 9 for Bankus. 76 in 9 is where we currently stand. 76 in 9 for Derek Bankus and 92 in 9 for Paul Kravitz. With 1 to go, Derek Bankus has been quite good on the headpin this game. It's just he hasn't been able to get the marks. Kravitz on the headpin with a 6 drop. Bankus, the left of the headpin, mixes down 6, 1, 3, 7, 10. Right side check mark for Paul Kravitz, 5, 6, 3, 10. Kravitz takes the 6, 10, leaves the 5 and the 3. 1, 3, 7, 10 for Derek Bankus for a spare shot. And he punches the headpin a little bit too full, unfortunately. It was on the object pin, but just hit it a little bit too direct. Kravitz on the 3 and the 5. It'll be an 8. Bankus with a 9 box, and that will be the end of the 4th game. 97, Rob Melanson versus Derek Bankus is 85 and 84 in the 4th game for Bryan Hebert versus 100 for Paul Kravitz. 349 for Hebert, 366 for Kravitz. That is confirmed. 398 Rob Melanson, 383 Derek Bankus. Current point spread is Rob Melanson 6 points, Derek Bankus 2, Bryan Hebert 2 points, Paul Kravitz 6. And we're going to move on to the 5th and final game where the totals are close. It's a difference of 15 between Rob Melanson and Derek Bankus, and a difference of 17 between Bryan Hebert and Paul Kravitz. So the 5th game is super, super important because that means it's going to be a 6-pin sway if any bowler can get hot, especially if they're under the deficit, because it is not a runaway. The bowlers are actually somewhat close to one another in their respective matchups when it comes to the grand total pinfall, which is worth 4 additional points. So stay tuned. We got Rob Melanson up next. Rob Melanson punching the right side, half Worcester. Bryan Hebert on the left. Neither bowler on the headpin. And that's a spare for Rob Melanson on the half Worcester. Get a replay for that in just a moment. Hebert leaves a right side 6-pack on the 2nd ball. And he'll take 9. Let's get that replay queued up here. Right side half Worcester for Rob Melanson. And then he just takes it all out. And he was on the 1-2 pocket, and that's what took it out. Rob Melanson here on the mark Phil on the head pin. Drops, 5, leaving the bucket of 5 on the left. Hebert, now he is a half Worcester. Let's see what happens here. Earlier, Bryan Hebert and Rob Melanson were kind of copying each other, so we'll see what happens. Rob Melanson misses his mark. 2-5. Hebert sails through the void. Unfortunately, doesn't match Rob Melanson's half Worcester spare. Melanson for the 10 box. 8 box guarantee. It'll be a 10. 25 after 2 for Rob Melanson. Hebert will punch and will take a 5 for 14 after 2. Rob Melanson 14 for 42 on the headpin today. 9 splits. Bryan Hebert 13 for 42 on the headpin today. 11 splits. It's Rob Melanson off to the left of the headpin. And Hebert on the headpin. Nearly a strike. Drops 6. Leaves the 6 on the deck. Melanson will take a few. No mark. Hebert, that's a spare for Hebert. Punches right out, 24 after 3. Melanson 1-2-8 for a 10 box. 7 box guarantee, it'll be a 7. Here's Bryan Hebert's spare again, in case you missed it. Perpendicular wood on the 6. Red lines it, there it goes. Pretty easy spare, and he nailed it. 24 after 3 in the ball for Bryan Hebert. Rob Melanson on lane 32. Lemon drops on the 6. Hebert on a spare. He's on the 3-pin. Probably deserved a little bit better than that, but it's going to be a 3 fill, unfortunately, for Bryan Hebert. Looked like more, but it's actually a 3 fill, I believe. It's 2 down now for Rob Melanson. Excuse me, a 4 fill. It has been corrected down there. And Hebert sails through the void, and oof. The void stares back. One of those moments. Both bowlers with really rough working boxes here. Melanson will turn it into an 8. Hebert will turn it into a 5. Ouch. 33 after 4 for Hebert, 40 after 4 for Rob Melanson. Rob Melanson, 8 spares today, followed by Paul Kravitz's 6, and then Hebert and Bankus have 4. Derek Bankus is the only one with a strike today. So keep that in mind. So, folks, if you like what you saw today and are interested in more, I might invite you to check out the Candlepin multiverse of content, such as Candlepin Bowling Network, Candlepin Corner, the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour, at Candlepin Bowling on TikTok, and my channel, 3 Ball Spare. Most of these are on YouTube. At Candlepin Bowling is obviously on TikTok. The Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour is primarily on Facebook, but also has a YouTube channel as well. And be also check out Candlepin Chat on Facebook. Great for discussion, figuring out when tournaments are, what to do when asking about rules, and all that kind of stuff. There's alleychat.net for the Friday Night Pro League recaps. And we're back on the action here. Here's Rob Melanson. 7 drop. 7-8-4. Bryan Hebert. Meanwhile, to the right of the head pin, center diamond and then some extra pins. 4 down, 6 up for Bryan Hebert. 3 up for Rob Melanson. He's off to the right of the head pin. Bryan Hebert also sails to the rights. Air ball for both. This will be final ball of the half. Rob Melanson first. 8 box. Bryan Hebert, 7 box. And that will be 48 after 5 for Rob Melanson and 40 after 5 for Bryan Hebert. 1 mark for each. And those scores are indeed confirmed. Here in the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour, I'm Steve Kelly on the call. Great to have you along with us as our home bowlers now get ready to start the first half of the final game. It'll be Derek Bankus on lane 32. And Paul Kravitz on lane 31. Bankus will lead off. On the head pin, drops 8, mixes a split of 2 and 10. Kravitz, the right of the head pin, drops 6, 1, 4, 7, 9. Derek Bankus on the 2 and the 10. And wow, that was an awesome spare by Derek Bankus. We're going to get a replay of that in just a moment. Paul Kravitz, 1, 4, 7, 9. It's just off a little bit. The head pin stays. Kravitz on the head pin for his 10 box. 9 or 10 for Paul Kravitz. It'll be a 9. Here's Derek Bankus' spare on the 2 and the 10. No wood, unassisted. Have to hit the 2 pin and kick the 10. Derek Bankus does precisely that. Look at that spare by Derek Bankus. All right, Derek Bankus looking to fill that spare now. He's on it. Oh, nice fill. 9. 9 fill for Derek Bankus, leaving the 5 pin. Paul Kravitz is to the left of the head pin. Takes 2, leaves everything else. Derek Bankus for single pin spare. Will he get it? Oh, he's just off a little bit. Paul Kravitz sails off to the left. No mark. And that'll be a miss the second, get the third situation for Derek Bankus. That's Paul Grant special on the 5 pin for the 10 box. Paul Kravitz on the center diamonds and leaving 2 extras. That'll be a 4 box, if I'm not mistaken. 13 after 2 for Paul Kravitz, 29 after 2 for Derek Bankus. Those scores are confirmed. Bankus on lane 32. Oh, and he's a little off there. Wild pitch to the right. 1 down. Kravitz on the head pin drops 8, 5, 8. Derek Bankus on the remedial second ball, and he was right in the pocket, at least the 5 and the 9, though. No mark. Paul Kravitz on the 5 and the 8. Let's see what happens here. He'll get the spare. That's a spare for Paul Kravitz on the 5 and the 8. Derek Bankus on his 5 and 8. It'll be a 9 box. Excuse me, 5-7. Not. No, yes, 5-8. What am I saying? It was the 5-9 for Derek Bankus. But that's the spare for Paul Kravitz. So Paul Kravitz is on a mark, as you just saw. Derek Bankus with 1 mark this half. 38 after 3, 23 and a bonus after 3 for Paul Kravitz. Bankus to the right of the headpin, to the left of the headpin, mixes down 5. Kravitz on the headpin will split it up. Looks like it's going to be a 4 fill, unfortunately. Bucket of 5 in the 10. Bankus leaves the 1 and the 9, no mark. Kravitz on the bucket of 5 left in the 10. Punches the 2 and the 8. Leaves the 7, 10, 4, 5. Bankus will take 8. Kravitz will take 7. 34 after 4 for Kravitz. 46 after 4 for Bankus. Derek Bankus, in his past 5 matches, he's taken 7 strikes, 47 spares, and 37 tens. Stronger while at home compared to away. He has a higher average recent pinfall and scores compared to Rob Melanson. That is a 5 drop for Derek Bankus, not on the headpin. 4 horsemen left in a sleeper. And the same thing for Paul Kravitz, actually. Same thing for both. There's more balanced performance across matches overall for Derek Bankus compared to Rob Melanson. Analysis by Microsoft Copilot. No bowler with a mark, leaving 2 on the deck for both. Bankus will take a 9 for his efforts. And so will Paul Kravitz, and that is the half. That's the final first half of this match. 48 after 5 for Melanson, 55 after 5 for Derek Bankus. Bryan Hebert is at 40 after 5, while Paul Kravitz is at 43 after 5. And those scores are all confirmed. So here in the home stretch, Bryan Hebert will lead off first. He's on the 10 pin and only the 10 pin. Let's look at what Rob Melanson has on offer. He's the left of the head pin, drops 6. Bryan Hebert nearly spares up that 1 drop, leaves the 5. Rob Melanson on the 4 horseman right side, he leaves the head pin, the 1 pin. Hebert 9 or 10. It'll be a 9. 49 and 6. Rob Melanson on the head pin. It'll be a 10 box. 58 and 6 for Melanson. 49 and 6 for Hebert. Hope you've been enjoying this match. Since we are starting to wind down and get into the home stretch here, that's a 6-pack for Bryan Hebert. Melanson, same story, actually. Same thing for both. I'd like to thank a couple folks, including our ACST League Commissioner Danny Finn. Our treasurer for Class C is Anthony Karen, and our Class E treasurer is Maurice Perry. Statistician for the ACST, Micah Imperato. The staff at Leda Lanes, always accommodating, always super friendly. Shout out to Matt Susi for coming over and always approving of the setup I got here. Steve Abodeely for some of the B-roll and photography. Check him out at stabadeely.com. stabadeely.com for his photography work. That's an 8-box for both bowlers, by the way. Bryan Hebert on the 1-2 pocket. Pins are still mixing. It'll be an 8 drop and a split. And a 9 drop for Rob Melanson, leaving the 7 on the deck. Bryan Hebert's got the 5-10. Always like to thank viewers like you for also watching. It's always great to have you watching these matches and streams and keeping the ACST supported and the Candlepin community all going. Always fun. Bryan Hebert didn't get a mark. He's left the 10. Rob Melanson, single pin spare. Smooth ball, and I don't know if that's going to be ruled as a spare or a foul. I can't tell. Wait for the call on that. Hebert will take a 9. Holding on the call for that for Rob Melanson still. And I believe it's going to be ruled a 9, so I'm going to pre-enter it as a 9, and I'll let you know. Nope, just kidding. It is going to be a spare for Rob Melanson. Hebert punches 1. It'll be a 5 fill for Rob Melanson. And Hebert will take a nice spare. Fantastic spare by Bryan Hebert. We'll get a replay of that in just a moment. Rob Melanson is looking at the 5, 7, 10, 3. And he takes 2, leaves 2. An 8 box for Rob Melanson. And actually, it appears he was marked as a 6 fill. So again, I'm just following the bowlers. 90 and 9 for Melanson. Bryan Hebert. Yep, we'll get that spare. Check that spare. It was on the 1 drop. There it goes. That was a spare by Bryan Hebert. And here's the follow-up. Oh, and he was right on target, but he fills with 4. Splits it up with a spread eagle. Melanson, the right of the headpin, drops 8. Drops 9. Leaves the headpin on the deck. Hebert on the spread eagle, he sails through the center. Melanson single pin, head pin spare, and he'll get it. That's a spare 100 and a ball for Melanson. Bryan Hebert will clean up for 7. 87, 10th, 87 in the 10th for Bryan Hebert, and a 5-game total of 436 for Bryan Hebert. We now have Rob Melanson with a final fill on his final spare. Final ball. Rob Melanson currently at 100 with 3 marks. And it will be an 8 fill for Rob Melanson. That should be a 108. I'll double check that in just a moment. Yes, 108 is confirmed for Rob Melanson. 87 is confirmed for Bryan Hebert. 506 5-game total for Rob Melanson. 436 5-game total for Bryan Hebert. Those scores are confirmed. Oops. All right, so we now have Paul Kravitz and Derek Bankus. Paul Kravitz first. And Bankus. Holy moly, what a strike by Derek Bankus. I wasn't even ready for that. It was a split for Paul Kravitz. And he's left with 4 on the deck. That'll be a 6 opener for Paul Kravitz in this half. Watch this strike by Derek Bankus. On the 1-2 pocket, it all just goes immediately. That was a fast strike for Derek Bankus. Derek Bankus on a strike. Paul Kravitz will start first, though. Kravitz. To the right of the headpin, he drops 7. Nice ball. 1, 2, 4. Bankus on a strike. To the right of the headpin. 3 so far. 1 more ball for the fill total. It's the 1, 2, 4 for Paul Kravitz. 1, 2, 4, 7, 3, 5, 8 for Derek Bankus. Paul Kravitz just narrowly missing the spare, leaves the 4 on the deck. And Bankus to complete the strike fill, he'll take 8. Right on target that time. 73 and 6 for Bankus thus far. 9 or 10 for Kravitz, guaranteed. It'll be a 10 box for Kravitz, 59 and 7, compared to Bryan Hebert's 57 and 7. Derek Bankus will take an 8 for 81 and 7. Derek Bankus, 24 for 47 on the headpin today with 12 splits. Paul Kravitz, 16 for 47 on the headpin with 9 splits. Derek Bankus has been second place in fills, totaling 57, averaging 7.4 per mark. Rob Melanson is in the lead there, totaling 58, averaging 5.8 per mark. That's a split for Paul Kravitz, 4 drop, excuse me. And Bankus takes the right side Candlepin corner. This is going to be Paul Kravitz versus the 7, 8, 10, 4, 6, 3. He'll take the 10, leave everything else. Bankus on the head. Oh, the second ball for Derek Bankus has been really good. Past couple boxes, but he leaves the 5. No mark. That'll be a 6 box for Kravitz, a painful 6. 65 and 8, down by 1 to Bryan Hebert 66 and 8, and that will be a 10 box for Derek Bankus. 91 and 8 compared to Rob Melanson's 82 and 8. The current matchup situation. Hebert and Kravitz are within 5 in the match total. Hebert still has it by 5, but there's 2 boxes to go. And the gap is 32 between Melanson and Bankus in favor of Melanson. Kravitz will fire first. There's 5 right there. So they're tied in the total. It's a headpin shot for Derek Bankus, and I think he made a gesture like that wasn't what he intended to do, but it wasn't a bad ball. 7-10. Paul Kravitz. That will be the match for Paul Kravitz in terms of the grand total pinfall. He doesn't get the spare, but he does get the match total. That's 4. That's a big ball. 4 points for Paul Kravitz. That'll be a foul. That is a foul that Derek Bankus just called. That'll be a -1 on whatever it ends up being. Kravitz will take 10. That's 75 and 9. Takes the match total. Takes the 4 points. Bankus on the 10. It'll be a -1. It'll be a 9 box for Derek Bankus, putting him at 109 compared to Rob Melanson's 90 and 9. Paul Kravitz 75 and 9. Derek Bankus 109. Bowlers. Now Paul Kravitz is looking to secure the 5th game. We'll see what happens. He's off to the left of the headpin. Drops a few. Derek Bankus all the while. On the headpin. Drops 8. Splits 8. 4 in the 10. Paul Kravitz 1, 5, 3, 6, 7, 9, 10. He's off to the right. No mark. 5 box or greater. Bryan Hebert might still have the 5th game. Bankus misses his mark. So Rob Melanson will hold on to the total. And it will be a 7 box for Kravitz, 82. Bryan Hebert will take the 5th game. So Bryan Hebert will take 4 points. And it will be an 8 for Bankus, 108. Tying Rob Melanson in the 5th. Okay, so just wanted to make sure those were all confirmed, and they are. So, okay. So, today, in the 5th game, Rob Melanson 108, Derek Bankus 108. So, they will tie. They will share points in the 5th game. 506 5-game total for Rob Melanson. 491 5-game total for Derek Bankus. 436 5-game total for Bryan Hebert. And 5-game total of 448 for Paul Kravitz. So, we have a decent point distribution. Give me one moment just to compute the final stats while I send the results to the main computer that totally exists. And here are the results. We have Rob Melanson taking 11 points against Derek Bankus' 3 today. Rob Melanson took games 1, 3, 4, and half of 5. Bankus took games 2 and half of 5. And then with Bryan Hebert and Paul Kravitz, Bryan Hebert will take 4 points to Paul Kravitz's 10. Bryan Hebert taking the game 3 and game 5. Paul Kravitz taking everything else, including grand total pinfall. Rob Melanson with a 34% headpin percentage compared to Derek Bankus' 52% headpin percentage. Then 34 even for Bryan Hebert and Paul Kravitz in terms of the headpin percentage today. So today, that means Rob Melanson will move to 44 and 110, and Derek Bankus will move to 35 and 77. Then Bryan Hebert will move to 36 and 104, and Paul Kravitz will move to 66 and 88. And that should be just about it for us here at Leda Lanes in Nashua, New Hampshire. I want to thank you for watching. I've been Steve Kelly for Rob Melanson, Derek Bankus, Bryan Hebert, and Paul Kravitz. It's been great streaming this to you. If you're interested in subscribing to 3 Ball Spare, I invite you to check it out on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. And also check out to all the other folks running their own channels and whatnot in the Candlepin multiverse, such as Candlepin Chat on Facebook, alleychat.net, and their Alley Chat's YouTube channel. There's also Candlepin Bowling Network and Candlepin Corner and the ACST Facebook page and TikTok on at Candlepin Bowling. Also, not to mention, don't sleep on Candlepins for Cancer. Candlepins number 4cancer.com to sign up for qualifying roll-offs or to donate. And also, if you're thinking you bowl better than any of these bowlers today, I dare you to go out and go to candlepin.org and click Go Bowling, get in the car to find your nearest center if you live in the area. Check it out. Anyways, so that should be it for us today. Rob Melanson, Derek Bankus, Bryan, Hebert, Paul Kravitz. I've been Steve Kelly. It's been great streaming for you today. Have a great one. We'll see you at the next Atlantic Campus Singles Tour. Have a great one, everybody.